All right, so are you ready to like really step up your English game? You want to like iron out those pesky little errors that can trip us all up. I
Oh.
bet you're thinking like I already know the basics.
Right.
And you probably do, but today we're going deeper
Yeah.
than basic grammar.
Mm-hmm.
It's like think of it like polishing a gem.
Yeah.
You've got the raw material, now we're adding that extra
I
sparkle.
like that.
We're using this fantastic YouTube video called How to Improve Your English Fast. 10 minutes
Oh, yeah?
from Smashing English, free and fun English lessons.
Cool.
It's packed with insights.
Yeah.
So let's dive in.
Let's go for it.
So-
What I think is so fascinating about these common errors
Okay.
is that they can really impact how clearly you communicate.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about those subtle things that native speakers do instinctively,
Right.
but learners often miss.
Right.
Mastering them is like unlocking a secret level of fluency.
Exactly. It's like speaking the language with an accent you can't quite place.
Yeah.
Okay. So first up, let's tackle time expressions used as adjectives.
Okay.
Have you ever heard someone say a 10 years old boy?
Yes.
You know, it sounds off.
Of course.
Can you pinpoint why?
Well, it's all about how English treats those time expressions.
Okay.
When they come before a noun,
Yeah.
they morph into adjectives.
Right.
And like most adjectives in English,
Yeah.
they don't get the plural S.
Right.
So you say a 10-year-old boy.
Right.
It's a single descriptive unit.
Yeah.
It's the same principle with a 2-day trip or
Yeah.
a 6-month lease,
Right.
you know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's like those expressions become a single solidified idea instead of separate words.
Exactly.
Okay, next up is a mistake I've heard even native speakers make, embedded questions.
All right.
Have you ever caught yourself saying something like, I don't know, where are you?
Oh, that's a classic one. And it highlights how our brains sometimes get stuck in question mode.
Yeah.
Remember, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
is a statement, not a question.
Right.
So the word order stays the same as a regular sentence.
Okay.
I don't know where you are.
Got it. So the key takeaway here is to identify whether you're making a statement or
Yes.
asking a direct question.
Yeah.
This is super important, especially when you're asking for information or clarification.
Right.
Imagine asking for directions and saying, excuse me, do you know where is the train station? It can lead to confusion.
Totally.
Yeah.
Mastering embedded questions helps you sound more natural
Right.
and avoid those awkward moments.
For sure.
And speaking of sounding natural,
Yeah.
let's move on to a word that seems to cause a lot of trouble.
Tell.
Oh, yes. The dreaded tell. I've heard so many variations of this mistake.
Yeah.
I told to her.
Mhm.
I told that.
Right.
And even the classic, I tell you.
Yeah.
You know, these errors are so common because tell has a very specific way of working in English.
Okay.
It always needs a recipient,
Yeah.
someone who's being told.
Right.
So you say, I told her,
Right.
or she told me.
Okay. Yeah, I guess it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
You can't just tell into the void.
You can't tell no one.
Yeah, and it highlights how verbs in English often need a direct object to complete their meaning.
Exactly.
It's a subtle difference in thinking compared to some other languages.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, paying attention to these subtle cues can really boost your fluency and
Yeah.
make your English sound more natural.
Right.
And that brings us to another tricky area,
Okay.
the first conditional.
The first conditional, the
Yeah.
gateway to all sorts of hypothetical scenarios.
Right.
It's all about expressing possible future events, right? But the video points out a common mistake,
Yeah.
using will in the if clause.
Yes, it's a trap many learners fall into.
Yeah,
They might say, if you will get a better job, you will earn more money.
right.
It sounds almost right,
Yeah,
but it creates a bit of a grammatical tangle.
right. So what's the correct way to structure it?
Remember, the if clause sets up the condition,
Okay.
the hypothetical situation.
Mm-hmm.
We use its present simple tense for that.
Yeah,
The will comes in the main clause,
right.
expressing the result if that condition is met.
Okay.
So it's, if you get a better job, you will earn more money.
It's like creating a cause and effect relationship.
Yes.
The present simple in the if clause sets the stage, and the will in the main clause tells us what happens next.
Right.
Like dominoes falling one after another.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
all about understanding the subtle logic of how English structures these ideas.
I love it. Okay, ready for a quick grammar win?
Sure.
Let's talk about good versus well.
Right.
I think we've all stumbled over this one at some point, haven't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
It's one of those errors that can slip in unnoticed.
Yeah.
And to be fair, American English is a bit more relaxed with this rule,
Right.
which can add to the confusion.
Right. So what's the key difference?
It comes down to whether you're describing a noun or an action.
Okay.
Good is an adjective.
Right.
So you use it to describe things like,
Yep.
that's a good book,
Mm-hmm.
or you have a good point.
Okay.
Well, on the other hand, is an adverb.
Right.
It describes how an action is performed. So
Okay.
you'd say, she sings well, or he plays the piano well.
Right. But isn't good sometimes used to describe how someone does something? Like he's a good singer?
That's where it gets tricky.
Right.
In that case,
Yeah.
good is still describing the person as a whole.
Okay.
A good singer is like a label.
Right.
But when you're talking about a specific instance of singing,
Yeah.
you need the adverb well to describe the action itself.
Right.
So you could say, he's a good singer, but tonight he's not singing very well. It's a subtle distinction, but it makes a big difference in how you convey meaning.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really shows how a single word can change the entire nuance of a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on to the next mistake.
Okay.
Describing groups of people.
All right.
I've heard learners say things like, we were 6 at the dinner party,
Yeah.
which always sounds a bit off.
It's a direct translation from some other languages.
Right.
But in English, we have a specific way of expressing this.
Okay.
Instead of saying we were 6,
Yeah.
we use the phrase there were of us.
Okay.
So you'd say there were 6 of us at the dinner party.
Oh, that makes so much more sense.
Right.
Yeah, it's a simple change, but it really makes a difference in terms of sounding natural.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, there were 2 of us at the concert, or there were hundreds of us at the protest.
Yeah.
It works for any number.
Exactly. It's a handy phrase to have in your back pocket
Right.
for all sorts of situations.
Absolutely. And finally, let's tackle those pesky perfect tenses. Specifically, the present perfect.
Right.
The video focuses on how learners often overuse it.
Mm-hmm.
For example, saying something like, I have been to Spain last year.
Yes.
That's another one that sounds almost right,
Mm-hmm.
but something feels a bit off.
Yeah.
What's the key to using the present perfect correctly?
The present perfect is all about a connection to the present,
Okay.
even though it describes something that happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it like a bridge between then and now.
Right.
If you went to Spain last year
Yeah.
and it's a finished experience with no lingering effect,
Right.
you'd use the simple past.
Okay.
I went to Spain last year.
Got it.
But if you're talking about an experience that started in the past and continues to shape you today,
Yeah.
the present perfect is your go-to.
Okay. I think I'm starting to see the light here.
Yeah.
So I've lived in London for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would be present perfect.
Yes.
Because you still live there.
Right. Exactly. You started living there in the past, and the action is still ongoing.
Right.
It's like a story that's still being written.
Okay.
Or take the classic example.
Yeah.
I've lost my keys.
Right.
The exact moment of losing them might be a mystery,
Yeah.
but the fact that they're still missing
Yeah.
has a direct impact on your present situation.
Right.
You're locked out.
That's a great way to explain it.
Right.
So it's not just about something happening in the past.
Right.
It's about whether it still has some kind of relevance or connection to the present.
Exactly.
This is honestly making me rethink how I use these tenses myself.
Well, it's a common area of confusion even for native speakers.
Right?
And that's what makes this YouTube video so valuable.
Yeah.
It pinpoints those subtle mistakes that we might not even realize we're making.
All right.
It's like having a language coach whispering in your ear,
Yeah.
helping you fine-tune your communication.
I like it. So thinking about our listener who wants to improve their English quickly, what's the most important takeaway from all this?
I think it's not just about learning the rules.
Okay.
It's about understanding the why behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Why does English structure sentences this way?
Right.
What's the logic behind these seemingly arbitrary grammar choices?
Right.
Once you grasp the underlying principles,
Yeah.
those rules start to make more sense
Right.
and become easier to apply.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's like cracking a code. Once you understand the key, the whole message becomes clear.
Exactly.
So what practical steps can our listener take to really internalize these grammar points?
Well, repetition is key.
Okay.
Rewatch the YouTube video
Right.
and really pay attention to those examples.
Mm-hmm.
But don't stop there.
Okay.
The real magic happens when you start creating your own examples.
Yeah.
Write them down.
Okay.
Say them out loud.
Yeah.
Even record yourself speaking,
Yeah.
whatever works for you.
Right.
The more you actively use these structures,
Mm-hmm.
the more natural they'll become.
It's all about turning that passive knowledge into an active skill.
Yeah.
It's like learning a new dance move.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch someone else do it 100 times,
Right.
but you won't truly master it
Yeah.
until you get up and move your own body.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Right.
Try using these grammar points
Yeah.
in everyday conversations.
Yeah.
See if you can slip them in naturally, almost like a game.
I like that.
Challenge yourself to use the present perfect tense 3 times today.
Right. Speaking of challenges,
Mm-hmm.
one thing that really struck me in this video
Yeah.
is how the creator emphasizes that even advanced English learners make these errors.
Mm-hmm.
It's so reassuring to know, like, we're all in this together.
It's true.
Yeah.
Language learning is a lifelong journey.
Yeah.
Even native speakers make mistakes.
Right.
And we're constantly learning new things about our own language.
So it's not about reaching some mythical state of perfection. It's
Mhm.
about constant improvement and embracing the process. I think that's a really important message for language learners to hear.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
It's so easy to get bogged down in the pursuit of perfect English.
Right.
But the reality is fluency and accuracy are 2 different things.
Right.
And sometimes focusing too much on accuracy can actually hinder your fluency.
It's like being so afraid of spilling paint that you never actually pick up a brush and start creating.
Exactly.
You have to allow yourself to make mistakes.
Well-
That's how you learn and grow.
Language is meant to be used for communication.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's better to just express yourself, even if it's not grammatically flawless,
Right.
than to stay silent for fear of making an error.
Totally. So we've talked about the mistakes, the importance of practice, and the idea that perfection is not the goal. What else can our listener do to really solidify their understanding of these grammar points?
Now comes the truly fascinating part. Now that you're aware of these common mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to become a language detective.
I love that.
Pay attention to how native English speakers use these structures
Okay.
in real-life situations.
I love that. It's like turning on a new set of filters in your brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Listen to podcasts, watch movies, read books, even eavesdrop on conversations
Right.
in a non-creepy way, of course.
Of course.
Notice how these grammar points are used in natural, authentic contexts.
It's like immersing yourself in the language
Yeah.
and letting those patterns seep into your subconscious.
Precisely. That's how you truly master a language.
Right.
Not just by learning the rules, but by experiencing them in action.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Yeah?
I feel like I've learned so much.
You too?
And I'm sure our listeners have too.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we can improve our English by focusing on these seemingly small details.
I couldn't agree more.
Right.
And what's so exciting is that these improvements have a ripple effect.
Okay.
As you become more confident and fluent in these specific areas,
Yeah.
it boosts your overall communication skills.
It's like building a strong foundation for a house.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that solid base, you can add all the beautiful details and flourishes on top.
Exactly.
Right. It's like those subtle grammar tweaks are the scaffolding that supports your fluency, allowing you to build higher and higher.
Exactly. And as you continue learning and exploring, those foundational skills will be there to support you every step of the way.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has.
I feel like I've gained a whole new level of awareness about these common English mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our listener feels the same way.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how much we can improve our English by focusing on these seemingly small details.
I completely agree. And what's so rewarding is seeing how these seemingly small adjustments can have a ripple effect,
Right.
leading to clearer communication and greater confidence.
So as we wrap up this episode, what's
Okay.
one final thought you want to leave our listener with? What's that one piece of advice that can really help them on their English learning journey?
I would say remember that language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's a process of continuous discovery, and there's always something new to learn.
Right.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
Experiment with new structures,
Right.
and most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the pressure of trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
But language is ultimately about connection and expression.
Exactly.
Embrace the journey, the stumbles, the triumphs,
Yeah.
and the sheer joy of communicating in another language.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And remember, even small steps forward can lead to big results over time.
Right.
Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep that passion for language alive.
What a fantastic note to end on.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into mastering common English mistakes.
My pleasure.
Until next time, keep those language skills sharp, and remember, enjoy the journey. right? It's like having those little grammar things to hang on to.
Yeah.
That really makes a difference.
It really does. It makes all the difference.
That subtle thing. Anyway,
Yeah, it does.
this deep dive has been so eye-opening.
It has.
I feel like I've gained a whole new level of awareness about these common English mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure our listener feels the same way.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how much we can improve our English by focusing on these seemingly small details.
Yeah, I completely agree. And what's so rewarding is seeing how these seemingly small adjustments can have a ripple effect,
Right.
leading to clearer communication and greater confidence.
So as we wrap up this episode,
Okay.
what's one final thought you want to leave our listener with? What's that one piece of advice that can really help them on their English learning journey?
I would say remember that language learning is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
It's a process of continuous discovery, and there's always something new to learn.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to make mistakes,
Yeah.
experiment with new structures,
Okay.
and most importantly, have fun with it.
I love that. It's so easy to get caught up in the pressure of trying to be perfect. But language is ultimately about connection and expression.
Exactly.
Embrace the journey, the stumbles, the triumphs, and the sheer joy of communicating in another language.
Absolutely. And remember, even small steps forward can lead to big results over time. Keep practicing, keep exploring, and keep that passion for language alive.
What a fantastic note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into mastering common English mistakes. Until next time, keep those language skills sharp and remember, enjoy the journey.